It's like, no matter how hard he tries, it always ends up like this. Real Madrid celebrating, Atletico Madrid left wondering what could have been. Another Champions League defeat to Los Blancos, only this one would have hurt even more. They lost at home and were so close, literally inches from finally getting the better of Madrid in this competition. But in the end, it didn't happen. The same old story. Another Atleti defeat, and right now it begs the question, why is it that no matter what happens, Real Madrid is Atleti's biggest weakness? That game at the Wanda Metropolitano was the perfect opportunity. Atleti did everything, a proper performance, and the type we've come to expect under Simeone. Except this was more than just a classic. It also showed just how much Diego Simeone has evolved as a manager too. Conor Gallagher's goal was the dream start, and from that moment on, it began looking like this would be the night it finally changed for Atleti. Simeone once again had his trusted master plan. The defensive organisation was so solid that they limited Real Madrid to just a handful of chances, and on the reverse, they were dangerous going forward too. But for a couple of Thibaut Courtois saves, it could have been different. Atleti continued to defend, and the truth is, on the night, taking the game to extra time and penalties, they deserved it. I mean, they hadn't lost a knockout tie at home since Ajax beat them in 1997. That was over 28 years ago. In the end though, it was an all too familiar story. Rudiger's penalty sealed it. Real Madrid had done Atleti in the competition again. Right, so what exactly is the issue then? Well, to understand this, we've got to understand the make of this Atleti team now. Because the truth is, if we wind the clock back to the start of the 2010s, this rivalry wasn't as big as it is now. Heck, Madrid always dominated. The numbers don't lie either. From 1993 to 2013, just before the Copa del Rey final, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid had faced each other 42 times. Atleti had won just 3 of those 42 games. I mean, at this point, it was hard to even term this as a derby, because when Madrid didn't win, they always found a way to take a point and hardly ever lost. But you see guys, Atleti had something in the works, and the signs began to show in 2011 when they appointed the man that would change the club's fortune. Diego Pablo Simeone, El Cholo. He played for the club during his days as a pro and knew what it was to wear the Atleti jersey. The job he had at hand wasn't necessarily to compete with Real Madrid in the beginning. No, it was to establish Atleti as a club that could compete in European competitions. And they did. He won the Europa League in the 2011-12 season with the club and won the UEFA Super Cup after beating Chelsea 4-1 in the final, thanks to that Radamel Falcao hat-trick. But the major talking point with Simeone that season was the bit of history he'd achieved with Atleti against their city rivals. Remember that piece of history we talked about earlier? Just 3 wins in 42 matches leading up to 2013? Well, Atleti and Real Madrid made it to the final of the Copa del Rey that year, and surprise, surprise, Las Rojiblancos pulled off a stunning result. Took the game to extra time and won 2-1. At the time, this result was huge. It might have seemed like a surprise to everyone watching, but Simeone himself knew it was coming. Talk tough, and he did do it. He beat Real Madrid in the final. See guys, what we're trying to do is understand why Real Madrid is Atleti's biggest weakness. And in this moment, Simeone winning the Copa del Rey with Atleti against Madrid, it was a statement. He didn't just do it against any Madrid team. He'd done it against a Madrid team with the star power of Cristiano Ronaldo. Players like Sergio Ramos, Pepe, Marcelo, Benzema, Higuain, Khedira, Mesut Ozil. Atleti won. It had put them in the limelight now, but what happened just 1 year later stole the show. The 2013-14 season was a magical one for Atletico Madrid. Against the odds, with a sensational combination of defensive and attacking football, Atleti finished as league champions for the first time since 1995. And in that moment, a league title beating the 2 favourites, city rivals Real Madrid and Barcelona, That should have been the crowning moment, except the big one was just days on the horizon. Atleti had made it to the final of the Champions League, the first time since 1973-74 when they lost to Bayern. But this was bound to be special, because the team they were facing in the final was a familiar opponent. Real Madrid, a Madrid derby in the final. Now you can see the pattern emerging. From that horrible losing streak, in the space of 2 years, Diego Simeone had taken this Atletico Madrid side to the top of European football. They didn't just make the Champions League final, they'd knocked out AC Milan, Barcelona, and Chelsea en route to the final. 3 teams that had each won the trophy at least once in the last 7 years leading up to that final. Simeone had created a revolution with Atleti. The Champions League final with Real in Lisbon was an incredible run, because the truth is, no one gave Atleti any chance of beating Real in that final. And on the night, they were seconds away from achieving the impossible. Sergio Ramos scored for Real in stoppage time, and, well, I'm pretty sure you know the rest. Real scored 3 more in extra time to run out 4-1 winners, and while all the hype and news was around the white half of the city, for Atleti and Simeone, they'd made a point. What they'd done, it was only the beginning. Again, we're going back to that horrible run now, the 3 wins in 42 matches, just to show how things had changed. From that Champions League final in February 2015, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid faced each other 7 times. Atleti's only defeat was in that Champions League final. They weren't just going toe-to-toe with Madrid now. Simeone had built an Atleti team that knew how to win against Real Madrid. 3 wins in 42? They had 3 wins on the bounce in that 7-game run. They did meet in the Champions League again that year, a repeat of the final, and after a very hard performance in the first leg, in the second at the Bernabeu, the sad reality happened to Atleti again. Javier Hernandez's goal was the difference. Real knocked Atleti out of the competition, but only just, and it gave Atleti many reasons to believe they had reason to keep going. In trying to keep up with the theme of the video, patterns begin to emerge. Atleti had undergone a transformation under Simeone. Suddenly, it wasn't just Barca and Real Madrid in the league anymore. They did a J. Cole even before J. Cole realized. A big 3. The 2015-16 season was special for Atleti. They got to another Champions League final again. And the reward for knocking out Barcelona and Bayern in the knockouts? Real Madrid again. It had now become clear to Simeone and Atleti that Real Madrid was the acid test, especially in the Champions League. No matter what they'd managed to achieve, the real peak would be defeating Real Madrid in this competition. And so, they gave it everything. This time, unlike 2 years earlier, it was Real Madrid who took the lead through Sergio Ramos. But Atleti fought back. Yannick Carrasco equalized, but that was only before Antoine Griezmann had missed a golden opportunity for Atleti. Ultimately, the game went the distance to a penalty shootout, and the deciding moment was an all-too-familiar story for Atleti. Juan Fran missed, and just like before, they'd come so close, but yet remained so far. At this point, it was starting to look like either UEFA really enjoyed the Madrid derby in the Champions League, or they just wanted to see that look on Simeone's face anytime he had to face them. Because if you guessed correctly, the following season, they met in the same competition again. They lost the first leg thanks to a Cristiano Ronaldo hat-trick, and in that moment, Simeone looked crestfallen. This was his reaction after that third goal went in. Despite winning the second leg 2-1, they were knocked out again. So far, through the history, the matches involving Atleti and Real Madrid, since Simeone arrived, you could see the trend. Atleti had done well for themselves. They'd become a proper force in Europe. They'd started getting results against Real Madrid. They'd even won La Liga in 2014, and they did again in 2021. But that would be getting ahead of ourselves, because there'd be crucial results we'd miss that would go a long way into explaining this one. In 2018, Atleti showed they could beat Real Madrid in a UEFA competition. They won the Super Cup 4-2. The big one, however, was in 2020. The Spanish Super Cup final out in Saudi, a tough game in extra time heading to penalties, until Atletico Madrid found a breakaway that was so close to being a goal. Morata going through on Madrid's goal, and then boom. Valverde did a tackle that even Simeone would be proud of. Atleti lost on penalties, but we've seen a couple of pretty interesting matches between the two over the years since that point. Atleti won La Liga in 2021, beating Real 3-1 in 2023, 4-2 at the start of 2024. But right now, it's time to head back to the present day. Which brings us to the most recent meeting between the two, the one we began the video with. Real beating Atleti a few weeks back. You see guys, the reason we decided to go in depth into the results from 2013 was to see the playstyles and the different ways, if there has been any, that Simeone has tried to use in getting the better in Madrid. Before we get into that though, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Football Historia if you haven't, for more videos like this. Talking about Diego Simeone is talking about Atletico Madrid, at least in the modern sense. He's currently the longest-serving manager in the European top 5 leagues. He's been in the club since 2011, 14 years now. Just like the man and his team, the tactics may have evolved over the years, but the base idea has pretty much been the same. This is him taking charge of a training session with 3 attacking phases that could happen in a match day, and it goes beyond that.
Football is ever-changing. Football is eternal. Football is history. Football is today. It is yesterday. And it will be tomorrow. It changes constantly. We regress. We advance like they played in the 70s. Some teams still play now. When Argentina won the World Cup in '86 with 5:3:2, everything seemed strange. Today it's normal to play 5:3:2 football at football.
He talks about his Atleti style here, how they're set up. We've seen different variations this season, which we'll get to, but the primary duty oftentimes is to be as defensively solid as possible and then use that as the base to attack. He'd do this especially when they came up against the big boys.
I think today, for the first time in the first half, I see a team play 5-5, no striker. So it's very hard to find the spaces.
Like he did to Man City in 2022. But the point is, Simeone with Atletico Madrid creates this mentality where he makes his players understand it's them against the rest of the world, turns the Metropolitano into a fortress. You see Atleti defend like their lives depend on it. Just listen to one of his former players speak about it.
Volviéndose loco ahí en el banquillo, disfrutábamos defendiendo, porque sabíamos que era el camino para ganar.
Había que entrar a pisar al otro.
Juan Fran. According to him, they enjoyed defending because that was the way they'd be able to attack. It worked in previous years too. They've beaten the likes of Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Arsenal. He's beaten them using this style. But why is it then, when it comes to Real Madrid, most times he comes up short? A couple of examples.
I prepare the game thinking about the best players the rival has. And obviously Ronaldo is one of the best in the world of football. So we will prepare the game thinking he will be playing. It doesn't depend on us, and I do not think about anything but the best players we can face.
You listen to him here, and while he talks about Ronaldo, he also gives insights into his tactics. We're linking this now. The games we talked about earlier, the results. If we draw the comparisons, we could perhaps see where the mistakes were. Simeone in this interview said he prepares for games thinking about the best players the rivals have. But in the case of Real Madrid, all those years it was Ronaldo. The issue with this is, it's one thing to prepare against these guys, the top talents that is, but it's an entirely different case trying to stop them. Since he took charge of Atletico Madrid, he's watched his side concede 3 hat-tricks to Ronaldo. And in cases where they've been able to contain him because the focus is solely on one man, it allows the rest of the team to play. Which is why that defeat to Real Madrid a few weeks back must hurt, because in recent times, Simeone has changed. It's still El Cholo, still the same Atletico Madrid with the same DNA, but the pattern of play we've been seeing in the 2024-25 season so far has been very interesting. When you think about Atleti, because of how defensive-minded they've been for years, the typical scoreline in a win is usually by the odd goal or two, and then a clean sheet.
Atletico Madrid kill football.
You should probably let that guy know that Atletico Madrid this season has been very different. Take a look at the results, for example. This season alone, they hit 6 versus Sparta Praha in the Champions League, 5 versus Real Valladolid in the La Liga, 5 against Getafe in the Copa del Rey, involved in that crazy 4-4 draw versus Barcelona. They hit 4 against Salzburg in the Champions League, 4 against Sevilla, 4 against Elche. The point is, these are not your typical Atletico Madrid results, and that's because this 2024-25 version of Atletico Madrid isn't the typical one we've come to know. They're keeping the ball more now. Let's take the first game against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu as an example. There was obvious groans from the home crowd when Atleti held the ball in large spells. At halftime, Atleti had enjoyed more possession with 54% than Real Madrid's 46%. Heck, they even completed more passes with 314 than the Madrid team at home. You see guys, this possession metric we just mentioned here is a big indicator of just how much the ideas have shifted with Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone. Take the 2015 quarter-final for example, where Atleti lost to Real Madrid thanks to that Javier Hernandez goal. Real Madrid had 64% possession to Atleti's 36%, and Atleti only managed to complete 238 passes to Real's 745. Comparing this, you can see now that with Simeone currently, this Atletico Madrid wants to attack. They've changed the approach a bit now. The likes of Julian Alvarez, Antoine Griezmann, Rodrigo de Paul, mixed with the typical Atletico Madrid stereotype for a player. Conor Gallagher, Jose Maria Jimenez, work horses, the grit players we've become used to see playing for the club. If you're Diego Simeone, then you're hoping with everything that this works. Think about it. With a new tactical tweak, they'd already beaten Barcelona this season. But as we touched on earlier, the acid test was always going to be Real Madrid, especially in the Champions League. They lost through very controversial circumstances still.
Pero yo, una pregunta a ustedes, por ahí ustedes lo vieron, yo el penal no lo vi, viste que me quedé, por ahí no me vieron, pero yo me quedé caminando sin ver la tanda de penal. ¿Ustedes lo vieron?
You can see Simeone very angry here because he believed VAR's decision to cancel Julian Alvarez's penalty for a double kick was unfair. But in the context of the match, it's allowed us the chance to be able to draw certain narratives out. So why can't Atleti seem to get the better of Real Madrid when it matters? For one thing, it's always been a question of finding the balance, and this is where it gets tricky. Remember what Simeone said about Ronaldo and stopping the star players of a team minutes back? Well, that was his approach early on, particularly against Real Madrid. The best it could get them was a couple of victories in the league and near misses. It's not to say the system wasn't effective. I mean, even Ronaldo himself complained about how hard it was coming against Atleti.
Contra Atleti, yo no iba con el sentimiento de disfrutar, porque sabía que contra Atleti tú no disfrutas.
He didn't enjoy it, but it's crazy to think how he didn't enjoy playing against them and still bagged the goals he did against Atleti in crucial games. But for Simeone, he must have believed the results would have been a guide into how to beat Real Madrid. So he changed the approach into what we're seeing now. Still, the same thing. They almost did it but didn't. Atleti allowed Real Madrid possession on the night, but it was in ineffective areas. They attempted and completed more tackles with 35 and 27 respectively. It was a hard game, and Real Madrid had Thibaut Courtois to thank on so many occasions. When they've been ultra-defensive, they've lost. He's brought in more creativity and an attacking rhythm to games versus Madrid. They've still lost. So if it isn't the balance then, what really is the issue? Truth is guys, ultimately, it's just down to one thing. Pure, hard luck. Atletico Madrid is the only team to have reached 3 Champions League finals without winning the trophy, and they've lost 2 of those to city rivals Real Madrid. The results deceive. The 4-1 defeat in 2014, for example, was very close. They were seconds away but couldn't hang on. 2015, they lost by a single goal on 2 legs. In 2016, missed penalties were the difference. Griezmann in normal time, then Juan Fran in penalties. 2017, it was down to Ronaldo's brilliance in the first leg. As we saw a few weeks back, similar to 2016, missed penalties were the difference. We can say a lot of things, blame the tactics, but as we've just touched on, honestly, there's not a lot more Simeone could do. He's mixed attacking flair with defensive grit and still has not been able to knock Real Madrid out of the competition. He's gone ultra-defensive, and it's been the same result too. It's just the truth. Sometimes in football, it's down to hard luck, and that's the one thing Atletico Madrid has been missing when it comes to facing Real Madrid. Simeone is a proper manager, full of passion, and it's so clear watching him on the sidelines that he loves the club. But seeing him unload against Real Madrid like that, you could tell that for him, this was more than just the result, more than just a Champions League exit. It had become a culmination of what had been happening for years, and this time, he let it rip. Guess you could say on Real Madrid aspect, they had to dig deep to get the win, and over 2 legs, this guy certainly played his part.
Real Asensio, so effective.
So much pace, not just strong but fast, makes the right decision, he's waiting on the timing to make the run.
Raul Asensio has been a revelation for Real Madrid this season. From just making the bench a couple of months back, he's forced his way into the team and ended a debate in the summer that was gathering serious heat. Click the next video to find out how Raul Asensio has ghosted Lenny Yoro this season.